Hey guys, this video is going to be a little bit different than what you usually see from me. It's not a video dedicated to comic books or anything like that. This is actually a video response to something Movie John 75 had posted about his early VHS memories, and I watched it, and it's kind of funny. As I was watching it, I'd been thinking for several weeks about my two little boys and how the way that they see movies and how in the future they're probably going to be able to read comic books is a lot different than what it was for me growing up. So hearing Movie John kind of put things into perspective of how it was for him getting into movies back in the early 80s really motivated me to want to do a similar video. So this is kind of how I got into movies, and I'm not as avid a collector of movies as I used to be. In fact, my wife and I over the last 4 years have probably purged several hundred DVDs out of our collection for various reasons. Probably the biggest reason being that with two little boys, especially with a 5-year-old, there's just some stuff that I know that he doesn't need to be exposed to right now, and there was also just some stuff that at one time we kind of agreed with or believed in, and we don't really feel that way anymore. So we got rid of a lot of our DVDs, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk a little bit about our VHS memories. To understand where I come from VHS history, I guess you could say, you've got to look at things from a couple of perspectives. Number one, I'm born and raised here in the South. I grew up in North Carolina. I live in the southeastern part of North Carolina, down near Wilmington, and pretty close to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's an extremely poor part of the state. Not a whole lot to look forward to as far as opportunities regarding jobs or careers or anything of that sort. So it's not really the most prosperous area, is what I'm trying to get at. At the same time, because of that, my situation was a lot like a lot of my contemporaries, a lot of people I grew up with. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. We kind of had, as a family, we had to work for everything we got. Wasn't a whole lot of belief in credit. It was just a different time back then. I'm younger than Movie John. Movie John started his story around 1980. I was born in '79, so I was probably a year old when a lot of his story was taking place. To understand my VHS history, though, you've got to go to about 1985, 86. That was kind of a unique time, and this is something else that is important to understand as far as the time frame we're dealing with here. During that time in North Carolina, pretty much if you weren't farming, you were working in factories, and there were only two main industries in North Carolina at that time. One was textiles and one was furniture. Here in the East, we were naturally a textile industry maintained society, and my mother worked for a textile plant. She's a seamstress. She still does seamstress work even in her retirement. But she won in 1985 or 86. She won a Christmas raffle at her office for a color TV, the first color TV we ever had. It was 19 inches. It was the first TV that actually had a remote, and it was a true remote. It didn't have a cord or anything like that. It was truly wireless. And with that, that opened up a whole new array of options for us. And around 89, we still had that TV. That TV lasted until 2002. So she got it in 85. It almost lasted us 20 solid years. It was a good little TV. Around 87, somewhere between 87 and 89, I want to say it was closer to 89, my mother went to Kmart and laid away our first VCR. Before that time, we had no VCR. We had basically the channels the antenna could pick up, the rabbit ears could pick up, and that was it. But I think so many people around us had VCRs at the time that Mama just felt it was time to have one. So in '89, she laid one away, and that's what we had. And that one lasted for probably 12 years. My dad passed away in 2001, and I remember testing it at his house to see if it was still working, and it wasn't working when he passed away. So it had lasted until about that time. So we got the VCR. I'll never forget the day. It was she came and picked me up from school, and we went there after she picked me up from school to Kmart. And she got it out of layaway. It was an RCA, I think. I think it was an RCA VCR. I could be wrong. Totally could be wrong there. I just remember it was built like a tank compared to the VCRs I've had since then. I've had a Philips and a Sharp, I think it was. Yeah, Sharp VCR, and they were much smaller. You could tell they were flimsier, made of more plastic. This one was a true metal case, and it had a lot of heft to it. And I remember the big thing back then was four-head. You wanted to make sure you had a four-head VCR, not a two-head VCR. So she ponied up the extra money to buy the four-head VCR. And I remember when we got it, she let me pick out one movie, and she picked out one movie from Kmart. And I picked out, because you got to realize I was only about 9 or 10 at this point. I picked out Looney Tunes VHS, and she picked out Africa Screams, which was a movie with Abbott and Costello. And brought them home, and that was the first time we had a VCR. And then we started to rent movies, because there were video rental stores popping up everywhere, and that's something you don't see anymore. They're just not there anymore. It's not something you see. It used to be there'd be one on every corner or in every strip mall. You don't see them anymore at all. Again, going back to our premise from the beginning, being here in the deep South, Blockbuster wasn't coming. Hollywood Video wasn't coming. So people had to start their own video stores. And I remember the town of Chadbourne, which is right next to where I live, there were at one time 4 video stores in that town, and the town only had a population of maybe, I think they have like 1,500 people at most. So, to have 4 video rental stores at one time competing against each other was something else, to say the least. And in fact, the little gas station here in my town at one time had video rental service. You could go in, and they had racks up, and you could rent off that. And that was a gas station, so they had popped up everywhere. I remember it was all really crude back then. You'd go in, and you didn't have to show credit or anything like that. But what they did want from you is your photo ID, and you had to fill out a little application to be a member, and this, that, and the other. And then they give you a little laminated card for your membership. And there was one that I left in a comment on Movie John's video about, and this is the thing that I remember distinctly. Whenever I was about 13 or 14, right as I was going into high school, I didn't have a job during the summer, and so I'd have a lot of free time on my hands. So my mother would take me to Mr. D's Video, which is quite a funny situation now, because it's actually my insurance company's storefront now. But he had a storefront there, and he had a deal. Old releases were 5 movies for 5 days for $5. So you could get 5 movies for $5 and keep them for the entire week. So she was able to get me on like a Saturday to go up there, and I could pick out 5 movies, and then I'd keep them until about Wednesday, and she'd take me back on Wednesday, and I'd get 5 more, and we just kind of did that the entire summer. And I loved it. And also back then, movies were so cheap to rent. If you didn't do the 5 movie, 5 day, $5 deal with Mr. D's, I remember like old releases were like $2, and new releases were $3, and Nintendo games for rent were $3 as well. So I'd do some of that every once in a while. And I thought it was great because, living here in the South, like a lot of other people, we lived in a single wide trailer, and I had a window unit air conditioner. And if you've never slept with a window unit air conditioner, I know it sounds crazy, but you are missing out on some of the best sleep ever. Especially if you have a higher BTU air conditioner than what it's actually cooling. If it's pumping out enough cold air to fill up 300 square foot, and you're in a little room that's maybe 30 square foot, it gets cold like freezer box ice chest cold, and that's just some of the best sleep. And I remember that our house caught a lot of the it was southern facing, so it catches sunlight just like our house now does. Uh, it catches a lot of sunlight during the day, and I remember my mother would put stuff up over the windows just to block all the sunlight out so it'd stay cooler in the house. And my room was no different. She'd put up, she'd make curtains, and she'd do everything else to darken the room, and it could get pitch dark. And with that window unit air conditioner blowing and it being pitch dark in that room, my bedroom, it got cold. And that was great about those summers. It's just a really cool memory. And I remember I had a little 13-inch television in my room, and I had the VCR. I'd take it out of the living room and I'd take it into my bedroom. And you got to realize this is back before a lot of TVs, or at least my TV at the time, did not have a coax on the back. It had the screws on the back, so I had to get an adapter, a coax adapter, and hook into that, and then plug the coax into it, and then run the VCR. I run that coax back to the VCR, so it was a little different. And I cut my teeth on slasher movies that summer. I'd seen some before. Texas Chainsaw Massacre being my favorite. I've always been a Leatherface fan. But I saw them all that summer. I can remember he just had. This is what I loved about these old video stores. They would pop up in the most random storefronts. So Mr. D's popped up in what at one time I believe was a bank. I'm not for certain about that, but it felt like a bank because they had a vault door, and you'd go in the vault door, and that would be where the drama movies would be. And then they had offices up at the front, and they were sectioned off. And one office would be comedies, one office would be video games, and then there was one office, and it felt creepy walking into it to look for horror movies. But there was this one office that had just a door. It was the center of the store itself. Had no windows, and it had dark blue carpet on the floor. And then I think it had carpet on the walls. I could be wrong, but it had a dark color at the very least on the paint or wallpaper. It looked like the floor on the walls, and they had stained just some wood and made shelves, and it was a dark stain, so it was just really dark when you walked in there. And that was I remember. Let's see. I watched all of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres that same summer. I remember watching all the Halloweens from 1 to, I think 5 was the most current at that time. I could be wrong. It may have just been 4. A lot of Friday the 13th. Also found out that there was a lot of imported horror movies coming into, not so much Dario Argento Italian stuff, but just some other real creepy women flashing their boobies stuff that was just kind of different. And wow, so many good memories of those summers. And then it's like everything has changed. I'm a big fan of DVDs. I think the quality is excellent, and I enjoy watching DVDs here at home. But as you can see over my shoulder, the way we get our movies now has changed a lot. We've had Netflix for years, and Netflix Instant has been great because we've gotten exposed to a lot of stuff that we would have never watched in this house, like Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who now. I never would have watched it though had it not been for Netflix. Being Human. I don't know if you guys have seen the Being Human show that's on Sci-Fi. New season's coming up soon. We would have never known about it had it not been for Netflix. But it's not the same. I'm home today because I'm a little under the weather. I've got an infection, and I think it's worked its way up into my kidneys, and I'm hurting. And the doctor said take the day off and rest. So I've been home, and I decided to make this video. And I thought, how cool would it be? I'm here all alone. The kids are gone. Wife's at work. I want to watch some of these horror movies that I cut my teeth on. So I started watching Friday the 13th from part 3, and it doesn't feel the same. It's not the same at all. It's like there's a little bit of it lost watching it through Netflix. The other thing too is, I mean, it's a 50-inch television. Oh God, it's a 50-inch television, and so it's much bigger than anything I ever watched horror movies on before. Um, it's not on Netflix Instant anymore, but Full Moon Video stuff like Puppet Master and Subspecies were some of my favorites. Those were some other ones that I cut my teeth on during the summer. And Sleepaway Camp, oh my gosh, when they showed that last scene and you realize she's a guy, that was crazy. But uh, it's just a lot different now compared to what it once was. And I hate it because my little boys aren't going to be able to have that experience. They're not going to be able to say, I went to this shady little video store and rented videos for next to nothing. They're not going to have that at all. They're not going to have stories about paying $5 in rewind fees for not rewinding movies when they carried them back to the store. They don't have to worry about that anymore. I mean, my 5-year-old has a Nintendo 3DS and he watches Netflix on it at night to put himself to sleep. That's what he'll remember, but it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And I don't even buy most of the stuff I buy. I don't even go to a store for anymore. I buy most of the stuff offline. My wife and I both do. We just don't really do the store thing that much anymore, which is sad. But I guess that's just the way things are. So anyway, that's my VHS memories. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope I didn't ramble. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any good horror movies on Netflix right now, because I was just looking through the horror section and there's nothing really standing out to me. I saw where Child's Play is on there, but I was never really a Chucky fan. A lot of the Friday 13th are on there now. Let me know if there's anything good on Netflix. Take care, guys.